joining us. Your first reaction now coming in on some changes that has been made in the new education policy after the kind of backlash that was received by a lot of states in the south. Your first reaction on the kind of changes that has been made. However, there is just one change, no mention of a specific language that is coming in.
No, see, what I have heard, I have not seen the new, what has been altered. If it is so, I think it would have been mentioned that any other languages, national language. That is what I think, the modern language. That is what I think they would have added. But as far as DMK is concerned, they are trying to make a very dirty politics out of this. And even in 1968, 1992, 86, all the educational policies, draft policies carried all these things. But when it comes to a bill, it will be changed according to the state, as per the state's concern. That will be added. That the DMK also knows, because there are a lot of ministers from DMK also in more than 15 years in the central government. So wantedly, intentionally to provoke the sentiments of the Tamils, DMK is in the ugly spat with this issue, and they are trying to create a lawlessness situation in Tamil Nadu, because they are really very
Mr. Tirupati, just one more quick question. All right, Mr. Tirupati, while you are going ahead and attacking the DMK on this, Mr. Tirupati, right now the larger concern, and we're trying to actually understand the kind of confusion that is also created by this new draft policy, because there are several questions that are still unanswered at this point. All right, we'll try and reconnect with Narayan Tirupati in just a bit, if that audio connection can go through to him. All right, so we'll try and reconnect with you in just a bit, but let me take that point across to A. Saravanan of the DMK, still with us on the phone line. Mr. Saravanan, do you feel that this is a knee-jerk reaction coming in at this point to revise the draft policy, considering the kind of uproar? Because even right now, as we speak, there is a certain amount of a certain degree of confusion that is there. Because from 1st to 5th, it still says that they'll have to learn 3 languages. So the 3-language policy exists. But what are the 3 languages is still not mentioned in the draft policy.
See, that's what I'm making it very, very clear. See, when this government sworn in, there is no necessity for them. We all know that is BJP is a majoritarian party, Hindi majoritarian party. The kind of money they have spent on Hindi, promotion of Hindi from the taxpayers' money from the other states, where the regional languages are the major languages, I think we don't have any trust on this government. For them, it is Hindi at any cost. So they're going to bring this national draft policy. They said this is just a draft policy. And for the draft policy, we saw your reaction. We saw our reaction. That is the kind of reaction. That is how we want to react to the draft policy. So that the message is sent loud and clear. We will not allow even suggesting, because since already 2-language formula is applied here in the state of Tamil Nadu, we will not even take kindly to the suggestion that you may consider a 3-language formula. That is our stand.
All right. So you're against the principle of a 3-language policy itself. Yes. But Mr. Saravanan, request you to stay with us. Let me get in further perspective on this. Gajendra Babu, an education activist, joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Babu, many thanks for joining us. Your perspective on the changes that have been made, because right now what we look at is a certain degree of confusion still coming in. There is still no clarity on what are the 3 languages. But do you feel that not mentioning the languages in the new draft policy is going to lead to more ambiguity and more confusion for the people?
Surely the draft has got many jargons. It could be understood only by the people who are working in the area. This draft has not been given in all the Indian languages, especially by the people of Tamil Nadu. It is given in the Tamil language. Without giving it in the Tamil language, will the Tamil people be at the mercy of a person who knows English to get them translated and tell them and then give their opinion? So if the government of India is very serious to know about the feelings of Tamil people, they should have first given it in the Tamil translation to them. Number 2, they are talking about the 1968 policy when they are talking about the 3-language formula. The same 1968 policy talks about a common school system. When the demand is there for a mother tongue as a medium of education and establishment of a common school system that is equitable access to education, why are you hijacking that conversation? Why are you not talking about that, and why are you talking only about this 3-language formula? And when you have a mother tongue, can Hindi be a language of Supreme Court? Can Tamil be a language of High Court? Can Hindi be the language of a PhD thesis in the higher education? We're talking only about learning about another language. In fact, the goal of the curriculum should aim, the 1968 document. The Qatar Commission said all the Indian languages should be developed. Till the Indian languages are developed, English can be the medium of education, higher education. And after 70 years, we're not talking about that. So why are they just doing the politics on this educational issue?
All right, Mr. Babu, request you to stay with us. We're just getting a perspective. They're coming in from Gajendra Babu, education activist. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Pramod, joining us live with all those updates and more perspective, because there is still a lot of confusion regarding this. Pramod, first of all, tell us, this does look like a knee-jerk reaction right now, because there is a lot of confusion coming in on what are the three languages, while the new draft has just gone ahead to remove the mention of the word Hindi. First of all, take us through the two comparison of the old draft and what has changed in the new draft.
Well, the first thing here is that we had a kind of like a major confusion and question, because the changes were made to the draft not within just 3 days, and this itself was like completely different, because when actually a draft copy is released for the public to view it, they will not make much changes, and that too in such a speed, because only time period is until June 31st to provide explanation, kind of like comments or any kind of criticism on this draft copy, and within 3 days they have made such a major difference. But however, though the difference seems to be major in the words, it does not provide any sort of explanation. If I have to go a comparison with the first copies like a tri-language policy and this tri-language policy, the first one segregated the states to Hindi-speaking, non-Hindi speaking. For Hindi-speaking, it was Hindi, English, modern Indian language. For non-Hindi speaking, it was regional, Hindi and English, and that was a confusion as to why a student has to be put forward. This was taken as Hindi imposition. Again, the activists and politicians from the Tamil Nadu claim there is no kind of like block in the state of Tamil Nadu to learn Hindi, but however, Hindi cannot be imposed. That's what they're trying to say. But at the same time, the new policy, we're not exactly sure why they have brought these words. Whatever we mentioned earlier, all those words have been removed. It very categorically mentions that the student can go for a change in the language from grade 6 or 7 and should show proficiency in at least one language in the grammar level. So what about grade 1 to 5? What are the three languages the student is supposed to learn from 1 to 5? Why the terms Hindi, English, regional language, modern Indian language has been removed? We are not exactly sure.
All right, so Pramod, while the confusion still remains, as you're pointing out, the new draft policy, there's no mention of a specific language. But with the new draft policy, there's been some changes that have been made. Is this addressing the concerns of the activists and the politicians and all those people who had, in fact, vociferously put down saying that this is an Hindi imposition? Does it address their concerns?
Well, if you go by the top layer, it might look like it's addressing their concerns, but if you read it carefully, you can very well see that, like, instead of giving the first paragraph that was on the earlier draft copy, they have just removed the first paragraph and they've just gone with the second and third, claiming like three languages are optional, can be changed. Any language can be changed from 6 to 7. They are not mentioning what the student is going to learn. What are the three languages the student must learn from grade 1 to 5? Why it is not mentioned, we're not exactly sure.
Okay.
Might try to appease the politicians, but if you read it very carefully, no proper explanation has been given. It only looks like the earlier copy, but with different words.
Also, Pramod, we were speaking to A. Saravanan of the DMK. So the DMK seems to be completely against the three-language policy itself in principle, whether or not there is any mention of any language. So are there other political parties who are completely opposing a three-language policy?
Well, in the state of Tamil Nadu, the language issue has become a very important issue. Since 1965, we had Hindi agitation protests and everything, which actually brought the Dravidian parties to power, removing Congress. So it's a very important issue for any Dravidian party, and that's the reason not just DMK, even AIDMK is assuring that the state of Tamil Nadu will only follow bilingual policy and not three languages. Once again, the politicians, especially the government, has very clearly mentioned there is no block for learning Hindi, but they cannot accept any kind of steps like this, which they consider as a form of imposing the language into a citizen.
All right. All right, so we still have to wait and get in further clarity on the new draft policy and what it really means, because as Pramod was pointing out, the draft policy has no mention of specific language which was mentioned in the earlier draft. However, there is still a lot of confusion on what are the languages that have been made or that has been written in the new draft policy. We'll have to wait and watch for any kind of clarity there coming in from the ministry. For the moment, Pramod, many thanks for joining us with all those updates.